Good morning, everyone. This is Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw! And it's Monday morning, so you know what that means. It's time for a Pokemon Unite tier list. Is that what that means? Yes, that is what that means. It's Monday morning. There's nothing I can do about it. It's the way it is. No, I'm excited. I just didn't know. Well, now you know. So join me and my dad's shirt. Yes, I got this shirt for Father's Day. What did you get for Father's Day? Probably nothing. I don't know why I'm being mean to you. You're my best friend. This tier list, let me take you on over to it, is based around what Pokemon I think are really good for new players, what Pokemon are a little tricky to learn, and what Pokemon I think are very, very hard to learn for newer players. So, if you're a newer player, I hope this list helps you choose some Pokemon that might be easy to get into the game and learn. I don't think you need to pick all of the Pokemon that are good for new players. Pick the Pokemon you like, of course, but these are ones that I feel like are easy to pick up and play. You'll get in and you will have a good time in your matches with these Pokemon. The ones closer to the bottom of the list by no means are bad. They're just quite difficult to figure out, especially if you're new to MOBAs. So let's hop into it. Oh, let's start with, who do we start with? Let's start with the one that's great for new players. A great for new players Pokemon, I'll just start with my little electric buddy here, Pikachu. Pikachu is a really strong choice for new players, specifically because he has a move that is a sure hit, and he hits like a truck also. I mean, his powers are really strong. The way he's set up, he really does feel like a very, very basic kit. In the game, he's listed as a novice character, and I totally agree with that. He's very basic, and if you play a few rounds as Pikachu, you'll have a very good idea as to what is going on. In my opinion, go Electro Ball. I think Electro Ball is the way to go with Pikachu. If you do that, and you just kind of use your range to your advantage, you'll have a great time with Pikachu. He's solid, super solid for new players. Let's take a look at someone who is not, in my opinion. Absol. Absol is a very tricky Pokemon, I think. You almost exclusively have to play Absol in the jungle. I mean, maybe you could play Absol in one of the top or bottom lanes. I'm not saying it's impossible, and no established meta has existed long enough yet. At the championships, we could see a laning Absol. So my only thought with Absol here is either you get really good ganks early, and if you don't know what that means, this is a great reason not to pick Absol. Either you get really good ganks early and you start to snowball and become really powerful, or you don't and you are absolutely useless to your team. Absol also has a really kind of underwhelming late game. I feel like it's a little tough to figure out Absol's kit. I think Absol's probably the hardest Pokemon for new players to learn. I really think so. So I would stay away from Absol if you're a new player. Let's take a look at Alolan Ninetales. Alolan Ninetales, in my opinion, is one of the best Pokemon in the game right now. It levels so fast, it controls its lanes so well, but it's really squishy, and until you learn how its moves work, it also feels kind of slow. Until you learn how its moves work, you miss a couple of your abilities with Alolan Ninetales, or you wall off your team or something, you're in a lot of trouble. Because of that, I would say that Alolan Ninetales is kind of in the middle ground here. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, I did this based on traffic lights. Green light for new players. Yellow light, hey, slow down, be careful. Red light, whoa, stop. Blue light, hey. That's a light I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get them to put in the blue light. You know, every time I write to the city council, they say, no, we have important things to think about. We have a homeless crisis, and you are writing about this light thing. Please stop writing to us. I won't. The next Pokemon we'll talk about is Cinderace. Cinderace, I just slotted him in this little tricky tier right here. I don't think Cinderace is very tricky. I think what you need to just understand with Cinderace is you are hitting everyone with your basic attacks and going nuts. In that sense, Cinderace is great for new players. Cinderace also happens to be one of the best Pokemon in the game, in my opinion. These are all, by the way, I'm going to stop saying in my opinion. You know why? Because I am me giving opinions. At this point, we're just going to have to ride with the idea that this is all my opinion. So, Cinderace, in my opinion, dang it, is one of the best Pokemon in the game and a very simple Pokemon to learn. I think Cinderace is very good and very good for new players. Charizard. Charizard's tough. Charizard alternates between hard to learn and a little tricky, but I think it would probably stay in the little tricky category. The thing about Charizard is, you know, it's got that very small range of attack, but it's also got some ranged abilities. It really turns on when its Unite move is used. I think Charizard is tricky. Not terrible, but I do think Charizard is a little tricky. I wouldn't recommend Charizard be the first Pokemon you use. Of course, it could be, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine with any of this. Play the game, have a good time. But these are just my recommendations. I think Charizard is a little tricky. Wigglytuff. I just started playing a lot of Wigglytuff actually this morning. I played a bunch of matches with Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff is simple, good. I love Wigglytuff right now, and I think it's great for new players. You can't go wrong. You're just slapping everybody and singing them to sleep. Even his rollout move, which is a little harder to use, is pretty good. I think Wigglytuff is a super solid support choice for new players. Super solid. Let's talk about Venusaur. Oh, my little Venusaur. You know, Venusaur is widely considered a low-tier Pokemon, and sip of coffee. Refuse to edit that out. Venusaur is widely considered a lower-tier Pokemon, and I understand it. I think Venusaur is hard to learn. I think that's the situation with Venusaur. But once you do, I actually think Venusaur is pretty dang good. However, I recognize that people will have a tough time figuring Venusaur out. For that reason, I will put him in the hard-to-learn category. I don't think this makes him a low-tier Pokemon, but I do think he's a little tricky to learn. I do. Yeah, I do. Not even, nope. Not a little tricky. I think he's more than a little tricky to learn. I think Venusaur is hard to learn. Let's talk about, do we have any defenders up there yet? No, let's talk about a defender. Snorlax. Snorlax, I would say, is great for new players. Snorlax is very, very basic. You've got to figure out how to be a defender in this game, which means you're the one taking the damage, you're the one in front, making sure that your Cinderace or Pikachu can do the damage that they need to do. So as long as you are doing that with Snorlax, I think you're in good shape. Also, he has the ability to recover his own health. He's got his big block and pushes people away. I feel like Snorlax is an easy Pokemon to first start getting good with. So I think Snorlax is great for new players, not too tricky. Cramorant. Cramorant is one build with Cramorant I think is very hard. I think his air/dive build is hard to pull off. Once you start pulling it off, I mean, it's great. It's a great build. His other build is moderately difficult. You just have to be careful. He's a lot like Alolan Ninetales in that if you miss a couple of your abilities, you're in a lot of trouble. I would consider Cramorant to be a little tricky. He's probably my favorite Pokemon right now. I'm trying to think. I kind of have a favorite for each role, you know, which is something you'll start to recognize as you play the game more. But I think Cramorant is a little tricky to learn. A little, but you'll get there. I wouldn't let it be the Pokemon that you play your first 5 matches with. I'll say that. Crustle. Crustle is absolutely not hard to learn. In some ways, really nice for new players, but I think because of his Rock Tomb ability and how you have to learn to shape that around the battlefield, and the fact that if you're not using that, you might convince yourself that you're some sort of, melee carry, I would put Crustle in the a little tricky category. That's where I think Crustle belongs. I think new players could do pretty well with Crustle, but it's going to take a little... what do they call it? Game knowledge or something like that? There's a term that I'm completely blanking on right now. It's kind of funny that an important term like this I'm blanking on. Maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I think Crustle is a pretty decent Pokemon, but a little tougher than Snorlax. And when you're looking at defenders, I would pick Snorlax for newer players over Crustle. Let's take a look here. Eldegoss. Eldegoss is great for new players. You are going to have to learn the support role, but as soon as you recognize that your job is healing, you just need to know that one thing. Your job is healing, keeping your teammates alive. I think Eldegoss is a really, really strong choice for newer players. It's, you know, kind of KO'able in this game. Eldegoss is just going around putting that cotton guard on everyone. I really like Eldegoss, and sometimes in ranked play, you know, I solo queue a lot in ranked play, which means that I'm looking for matches by myself. I don't have a team, you know, I'm not squatted up with a bunch of people. And often if there's not a support, I will hop in with Eldegoss, although now it might be Wigglytuff because it's just too fun. Greninja. Greninja bounces between a little tricky and hard to learn for me. I loved Greninja in the beta. I just came back to Greninja recently and have been having so much fun with Greninja. Boy, I might actually put Greninja in hard to learn. No, he's not too tough. He's got the range and the melee. You know what? I think I'm gonna have to put him in hard to learn. He's between the two. He's not as hard to learn, in my opinion, as Absol, but he is a little tough. I'm having a tough time. But I'm going to say Greninja's a little hard to learn. Let's take a look. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to get this blue light out of the way. Mr. Mime is the only Pokemon that I've played a singular match with. I played a match with Mr. Mime in the beta, and that is it. So I am not an expert at all on Mr. Mime. I would guess he would actually fall into the hard to learn category just from how I've, you know, seen his move pool and the one time I played with him as, but I'm just going to say I've not played enough with Mr. Mime to make a full decision on this. Machamp. Boy, that was hard for me to say, but I'm not experienced with Mr. Mime. Wow. Machamp goes, I think, great for new players. He bounces right here. Great for new players or a little tricky. The tough thing with Machamp is kind of similar to Crustle in a weird way. You might convince yourself that you're a melee carry, and you kind of can be with Machamp. He's tough. When he gets a status condition, he becomes stronger. His moves are fun. You're moving around the battlefield quickly. I might keep him in great for new players. I think Machamp is pretty darn good. Let's talk about Lucario. Lucario, I would say, is hard to learn. Lucario is hard to learn. Great Pokemon. One of my favorite. As an all-rounder, if I am filling as an all-rounder, I always pick Lucario right now. I really, really like Lucario. His combos are so strong, but I do think he's tough to learn. Not only if you miss kind of your setups are you doing a bad job, similar to, you know, a Ninetales or Cramorant or something like that, but he's harder to set those things up with. He's melee. You've got to figure out how your combos work, how you can get in and out of combat with him. I would consider Lucario to be a difficult Pokemon for a new player to learn. Slowbro? I'm going to put Slowbro as great for new players also. I know we got two defenders in here, but I think Slowbro, the only thing that makes me cautious of Slowbro is his Unite move and his ability that's very similar to his Unite move that holds people in one place, because if you don't know how to use that and you're just holding people in one place all by yourself, you're in trouble. But as a defender, if you are with an ally and your whole job is just making sure that ally is safe, you know, make sure that Ninetales is safe, let them do their job, I think Slowbro is a pretty great choice for newer players. Talonflame. Talonflame is either a little tricky or maybe even hard to learn. And the reason is because Talonflame feels so squishy. I also, you know, full disclosure or full disc, I'm not sure how good Talonflame is right now. I think on the right team, you could probably have a setup where this Talonflame is just going around causing havoc, scoring like crazy. I might put Talonflame in hard to learn. I'll put it in a little tricky for now. It's tricky. It's tricky for Talonflame. That's right. It's tricky. Tricky. Okay. Zera Aura. Zera Aura is another. You'll notice that not a single speedster I have in the great for new players area yet. Well, we have one now. Zera Aura. They say Zera Aura is an expert level Pokemon. I don't agree with that. Expert just meaning the level of skill you need to play it. You can play Zera Aura in lane pretty well. You can play Zera Aura in the jungle pretty well. Out of all these speedsters, I think Zera Aura is the best speedster for new players. You also get Zera Aura for free, which is really nice, but don't worry, everyone will pick him every single round, so you'll never get to play him. But I think Zera Aura is a really competent and somewhat simple speedster. One of his abilities, where you jump around, I think it's Spark? I think it's called Spark. I think that one's a little tougher. I have a guide on my channel. I think that one's a little tougher for new players, but in general, I think Zera Aura is actually a pretty basic Pokemon to learn. Let's top Gengar? Whoa, Jake. Okay. Gengar is hard. Gengar's hard. Once you find Gengar's combo, Gengar feels like really, really simple. But the problem with Gengar is if you miss part of that combo, you're dead in the water. Also, Gengar has to level so much to become useful compared to other Pokemon. You have to get to level 7, basically, before you get his combo. So he has a really slow start. I think right now he's widely considered the best Pokemon in the game, or not the best, because it's about team composition and team play. But he is considered quite overpowered right now. I actually think, given that if you miss his ability or you just move away from him for a moment, you're not going to have a lot of trouble with him. I actually don't think he's crazy overpowered, honestly. But especially in lower level games, he's just going to destroy everybody. That being said, I do think he's difficult to learn. Garchomp. Garchomp is... I think Garchomp, I really have not played enough Garchomp. I've played a decent amount, but I would say, honestly, that Garchomp is kind of hard to learn. At least that's been my experience with Garchomp. I know it's kind of, basic. You're melee, you're up in everyone's face, but sometimes being a melee Pokemon like that, I don't know. It's just, you find yourself constantly getting taken out by ranged characters. You can't engage super well. I think Garchomp is actually pretty tough. That's my opinion, that Garchomp is pretty difficult to learn. That is what I think. So, there you go. Let me know what you all think in the comments. These are Pokemon that I think are great for new players. Pikachu, Cinderace, Wigglytuff, Snorlax, Eldegoss, Machamp, Slowbro, and Zera Aura. Ones that are a little tricky: Ninetales, Charizard, Cramorant. I always want to call him Parasect. Crustle, Talonflame, hard to learn. Absol, Venusaur, Greninja, Lucario, Gengar, Garchomp. And I haven't played enough Mr. Mime, but I bet Mr. Mime would be somewhere in here. Right in that area. That's what I'm thinking. And now, just for fun, let's mix them all around. We're mixing them around. If you're coming to the end of the video, you won't know what happened. I would love for someone to come to this video and be like, they find this video here. It just shows all these Pokemon as hard to learn. I think Talonflame is a little tricky. Cinderace is the only good Pokemon, and I haven't played with any of these. All right. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate you. Jake, figure out your sentences. I really appreciate you all hanging out, subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much. More content coming soon. I love you. Goodbye.